And now the height of the head, and this is gonna become my 1. So I'm gonna use this, and then I block in now the side, and I'm gonna appreciate the depth in an intuitive way. I know that this measurement has to be slightly smaller than that. So I make it slightly smaller, right? If I want to really, I come down with this, and at about 1/3, I block in the base of the cranium, and I know that the anterior half of the face, the head, has to be slightly bigger than the posterior half. That's how I reason, right? So once I establish this, we can quickly imply a sense of turning or movement by just adding a little bit of planes here and there, right? So now we block in the neck. So the length of the neck is about 1/3 from the chin to the top of the rib cage. So basically this measurement here is 1/3. 1/3. I bring it down, and I go up with the base of the neck like this. It's at an angle, right? But let's say that I want to have the rib cage, instead of the rib cage being flat like this, right? Instead of the rib cage being flat like this on the side, I want the rib cage to be slightly turned like this, right? You could also use like this, right? Like that. So what I do is I draw the top of the rib cage, and maybe I want the top of the rib cage to be not straight like this, but slightly tilted, right? Slightly tilted. So at this point, it is difficult to evaluate the width of the rib cage because there's going to be some perspective. So I'm going to eyeball it, right? I'm going to eyeball it. It's 1/3. We were kind of blocking in a sort of a beginning of movement, a torsion, right? Also as a way of reviewing the basic proportion, right? Stereometrically speaking. So now, how big is the rib cage? The rib cage is about a little bit more than a head and a half, right? All right, so this start becoming a little bit of a bigger measurement. So we could do this a little bit more than 1.5. That's good, right? That's good. Keep in mind that these measurements are statistics, so we might end up we might encounter a variety of proportion in the model that we are working with, right? So the rib cage could be the space between the chin and the pelvis could be 2 heads, but could also be 1 3/4, right? Or a little bit more than that. But overall, let's say the space from the chin and the pelvis is 2 heads. The rib cage, it's a little bit more than 1.5. So now I block in the rib cage like this, right? And now, so basically what I'm trying to do this. This is the head, right? Seen from the side. This is the rib cage like this, right? And then this is the pelvis like that, right? Flat, right? So I'm trying to get all these planes to turn. So this is the side of the head, right? This is the side of the head. I measured the height. Yeah, that's the one, right? So let's see now, we could eyeball this measurement here, right? And we could block in the pelvis here, right? The pelvis here. And I estimate about 1/4 of a head here between the end of the rib cage and the top of the pelvis, right? And I should have between the chin and the top of the pelvis about 2 heads. Let's see if I do have it, right? First, I blocked it in just to estimate it, and then let's see, 1 and 2. All right, that's good. I'll leave it there. The thing is this also, once I know that is pretty much what the pelvis is, I could also play with that, right? Let's say I want to have a pelvic tilt, like that. So this pelvis now, and let's say this is going to be a female proportion. So the female proportion, we need to make sure that the pelvis is slightly wider than the width of the rib cage. So we're gonna have this measurement here proportionally the rib cage smaller than the pelvis. So I take this measurement here, considering also that is in a foreshortened position, and then I make the width of the pelvis proportionally slightly wider than that, but I want the pelvis to be kind of facing me a little bit more, like that, right? Here, like this, right? And maybe I should move it to the right a little bit, right? So I move to the right, because otherwise it looks too strained of a pose, right? And the height of the pelvis is 1, right? That. So let's see, I block it in and see if it is. Could be a little bit bigger. I block it in, so that's 1, right? David, I want to double this now. Remember what we do, that's the center point. We can take this measurement here, double it here, and then end up here with where the legs end, right? So just to give it a further torsion, right? We could do this. We can block in now the beginning of the leg, right? And we can decide the leg will go across like that. So if the head is going that way, the legs are going that way, right? And this is the book is this is on page 219, right? But we don't have to have the image in front of you, right? We can just do it like this together, like that, right? I'm sorry, David. Right, see that? So once I know the legs are going, where how the leg tall the figure is, where the feet end up here, then I can visualize the other leg, right? It could be like this, it could be straight like this, but straight like this is a figure that is falling. See that? It's falling, right? Because the center line, this is the center line of gravity, is from here, and it will fall outside the figure. So that immediately you feel a sense of falling, right, of the figure, right? But if I do this, now the center line, this leg here, keep the figure from falling. So remember, we looked at the center line, right? And the center line can be used for aligning properly the segment of the figure. But it can also be seen to convey a sense of use, to give a sense of stability, instability, dynamism, etc. By seeing where it falls. If it falls aside the figure, that's it, right? The figure's gonna fall down. Or we could have the leg like this, but we would have to move this way to the right, right? So if I tilt this to the right, then the center line of gravity will fall within the figure, right, from here. And then it's going to be quite an uncomfortable pose, but it could be simply a dynamic pose, and the figure will not fall. So now the heel is going to be here, right? And I have another heel here, right? So this foot, right, what we could do, so now, actually, let's block in the segment of the leg. The space between here, the heel, and the beginning of the leg is about 4 heads, right? The knee joint is about halfway that. So I eyeball the measurement, take this, and it's about 4 heads. That's good. So now I know the knee is about here. So this is the thigh, and that's the leg, the lower leg, right? The foot here could be going just to maintain the same consistency, where this gradually turns, right, that way. So see what I'm seeing. I see the side here a lot. I see a little bit less. I see less. And now I see the other side, right, here. I could block in the foot down that way, but it would be really awkward if I block in the foot that way. So I could turn, like I did in the original, the foot that way. So you start a torsion the other way, right? And now this leg goes down here like this, and maybe I put it a little bit higher, right? Because it's removed from me, so I consider a little bit of a foreshortening or effective perspective, then this foot now is going to be higher than that, right? At least the heel. Not a comfortable position, but we have seen worse, right, on the subway. Right? Okay, so now, if in here, what I could do, I could also block in this side of this thigh here. And as this leg will turn the other way, I might be able to kind of see the other side, right? Maybe, right? It's, again, it's a little bit of a twisting, but it could be, right? It could be like that, right? I see now the side of this thigh here, like that, right? And the front of this leg here, right? Maybe I see the top of for example, the face is directed this way, right? The rib cage is directed kind of that way here, right? This is directed toward us, right? This is slightly directed that way, right? In the book I directed the other way, but this is slightly directed that way. And this now turns and directed that way, right? And the foot even slightly more that way. So we have this kind of turning like helicoidal thing, right? Not helicoidal, but twisting of different segment in different direction. It helps in analysis like this. It helps to understand the complexity of a pose such as this one before maybe we start copying it, right? Or also in general, if you don't have to do this when you do a copy like this from life, but doing this separately before with a variety of poses from photograph, etc., permits you to have a much more informed gaze at the subject when you copy the figure in study, because you've created a casuistic, right, of a possibility, and you're gonna appreciate the pose much more completely, right, when you then go in studio. So I would block in now So see how having all this segment clearly defined and identified in terms of proportion, proportion relationship, how they relate to each other, etc., and dimension and joint, where they start from, the way they are attached, the way they are connected with each other. It's like really having a puppet, right? A little wooden puppet in your hand, which you can pose, you can move in different ways, right? So I'm going